going forward with Diablo 3, or is this a new sort of level design that we're looking at?
I wouldn't say it's that we're choosing any specific direction there for like Diablo 1 or Diablo 2. This zone is a pretty wide open zone. It's something that we wanted to put together and run through and see what people thought of that area. But I wouldn't say that stuff's going to be specifically more narrow or more open. It's just going to depend on, really depends on the story and where we think it's each level area is going and each dungeon is going. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Hi. First, I'd like to say hello to all the Québécois out there. Go Apps Go. And will you be bringing back the Horadric Cube? And how the hell is Diablo still alive?
I'll answer the Horadric Cube question, and I'll let somebody else take the Diablo question. For the Horadric Cube, we really like the way that you can take certain items and combine them into new ones. That's an interesting mechanic. We weren't happy with the exact way that it was done in Diablo 2. We think that there's room for improvement there. So while we want to keep the essence of that mechanic, the actual implementation will probably be different.
For the second part of your question, nice try. We have not actually said that Diablo will be appearing in this game.
In Diablo 2, you have the ability to gamble, and at a time you can gamble some decent items. Will gambling be a part of Diablo 3?
I think one of the main issues with the gambling previously was understanding exactly how it worked. It was kind of a black box. I've talked to a lot of players who said, oh, you know what, I went up, I gambled, I spent all my gold, and I got nothing, and I never did it again. And that's actually a very typical early experience for players to the gambling system. And then you talk to someone who's an experienced player who knows more about, maybe they read on a website or they heard from a friend, or maybe they happened to get lucky the first time they walked up to the gambler and they're like, what are you talking about? This thing's awesome. It's a great way to spend all this gold that you're probably not using for something else. So definitely the understandability of how gambling worked is important. So I think what we do want to have is, I guess, ways to get items in addition to going on runs. But again, like the Diablo 2 method of gold, black box, something mysterious and random happens, I have no idea what happened, that's probably going to go through some revisions and changes as well.
Camera. Hello. Hi, it's great to be here at Blizzcon. Hi. I wanted to say I love sound effects, and I'm a big fan of Diablo 1's old sound effects. Is there any way that you could bring back some of them, or any of the old death noises of any of the creatures?
You may have noticed there's some in there already from D2, and some of that's accidental. Some of it's just placeholder that we're using because we haven't got to those sounds yet. But I have planned to pay respect to some of the older versions of the game and put some of the older stuff in here and there. I'm not going to say now what that's going to be, but you'll probably hear some here and there.
Hi guys, first off I'd like to say I really like what you've done thus far. I've played both demos you guys had up there. Fantastic, had a lot of fun. My question pertains to class-specific items. I know I've noticed that you've got items like staffs that only the, stones and staffs and whatnot only the wizard can use. You couldn't use certain items with the monk. I'm just wondering where you're going to go with class-specific items compared to what was done in Diablo 2.
All right. So we do have an intention to add specific items for every class that are unique to that class. Right now, for the wizard, we have the orbs, which only she can use, the combat staves, and we do have fist weapons that are not in the build, but those are both for the monk, and he can use a couple other weapons. We did, so we do want to go through every class and find some things that they can use. One of the things we want to do is also focus on making those really cool kind of signature items, which means, you know, we don't want the barbarians, like, you know, big item to be like a really cool belt. Like, so it's probably going to be some kind of crazy axe that only he can wield. And so we want him to be pretty showy and pretty cool, but we definitely want to have some specific items. Now, as far as whether those are must-haves for the class, what we prefer, I mean, we haven't really tuned them yet, so it's going to be hard to say until we do that. But I feel like what we tend to prefer is the idea that that they're useful for certain builds, but they're not the exclusive thing that you have to use. So if you're a wizard, there might be a lot of builds where a shield is better to use than the orb. We prefer that kind of diversity of item set whenever we can get it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, great, thanks.
Cool.
All right, we have 5 more minutes for questions. Right up there for me? Look right in the camera, okay?
Hi, first of all, Diablo is one of my favorite Blizzard games, but I think it needs more cowbell. My question is, Diablo 2, I loved it. Mephisto made an appearance. Hard boss, loved it though, but Bale got his own game. Is he coming back? And if so, is he going to have a bigger role?
I don't know. You kicked his ass pretty soundly in Lord of Destruction. We're not really talking about who's coming back or who you'll be fighting, but I wouldn't count anybody out. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Maybe a sitcom or something starring all the brothers.
Hi, my question is about monster recoil. In Diablo 2, I played mostly melee class, and one of the things that was enjoyable is when you hit the monsters, they would recoil and actually make it like a sound of pain. So you really felt like your hit had meant something and had an impact on the monster. I played the Diablo 3 demo here at the hall and also at last Blizzcon, but I've noticed that when I hit the mobs, they really don't react. It's kind of like lifeless. Are you planning to add recoil when you hit the mobs?
It's interesting that you say that, because a lot of our creatures, every creature does have recoil, and we actually use this.
Percentage.
Yeah, there's a percentage chance for them to recoil, and it's pretty much identical to Diablo 2's chance for recoil, because it wasn't 100%. And the animations that we play, when they do that, if they were real, they'd actually break the spine of the monster, because we make them so pronounced. We also flash the characters, and we do have them play sounds, although I would say on that front, our sound development is still a work in progress, and so maybe those sounds aren't pronounced enough. So I'm actually kind of surprised to hear you say that. But we'll definitely take a look at it. If it's not pronounced enough, we'll continue to work on it.
All right, that looks like that's all our time. Sorry, guys. Please thank our panelists, and also join us in Hall C for the Diablo 3 art panel, and in this hall for the Dungeon and Raids panel for World of Warcraft. Thanks.